What's going on, everybody? Tim at Sonic Performance. Wanted to show you a little bit of the project we're working on that we're undertaking, which is an 87 Ford Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. And we're starting with the rear suspension and the custom setup we're going to put in it. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing today. All right, so this is our project, 87 Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. Originally had a 2.3 5-speed with a solid axle. These cars were really similar to a Fox body, so a lot of Mustang parts transfer over. But what we're working on today is going to be rear end. Now, we skipped through gutting this car, pulling the engine, trans, and rear end, that stuff. That's not the cool stuff. Cool stuff is the rear suspension we're putting in it. So as you can see, we got everything out of the car, some brackets cut off, and let's show you the IRS. So the main difference between, let's say, a Fox body and a T-Bird is going to be the rear control arms for the rear end. So T-Birds are a longer chassis, so they're wider and longer. So these cars are really similar to the 94 to 98 Mustangs, but it's a Fox body chassis. So what we're doing is we have an IRS from a Cobra that we're going to put in, but it's not a bolt-in because we need to lengthen the IRS. We need to account for those longer control arms. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing with that. So here's the IRS subframe. This is from a 03 Cobra. 99 to 04 subframes are pretty much all identical. The 03 and 04 Cobras had some added bracing for the IRS and then bigger axles, and the diff was, and the gearing was different. But nonetheless, this would apply to any Fox T-Bird that you would want to do this to. So we need to lengthen the lower mount points for the IRS. So in Cobras, this front lower mount on this cradle bolts into the front lower control arm spot, the factory location. But like I said before, the T-Bird's a longer wheelbase, and it's roughly 3/4 of an inch. It's actually just slightly shy of that. I think it's 0.735, I think, is the difference in length of control arm. So what we need to do is we need to lengthen these lower arm mounts. And the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to cut on this flat part of the IRS, and we're going to move this mount forwards on the cradle and then weld a plate back in and reattach it to account for our roughly 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to cut this up, lengthen both sides, then we can reinstall the cradle and control arms and look at how everything goes. All right, so here's what we got. We have done a little tape mark of where we want this to be. So our measurement was from this hole. We measured out an 1.5 inches, and that's where our cut line is going to be. So we're going to do that to both sides. The tape is just kind of our guide for when we cut. This isn't meant to be a 100% perfect cut. It's just meant to give a nice clean area that has flat on both sides, so our new plate can lay in here flat to this piece and flat to the rest of the cradle. So we'll get these cut off and get some plates made. All right, so we got our cuts made, we got some plates made to put inside of it. So I'll show you what we have going on here. We made our cuts on the IRS, obviously each side cut off. We have, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some plates and we're just gonna set them in here. This is only for tacking this in place where we want it. Then we're gonna cut plate steel to put in place of that and weld it all back up. So these are gonna go on the inside. We're gonna put one on each side. Then we can set this back on, kind of line things back up, but obviously 3/4 of an inch longer. Tack that in place, take some measurements, make sure everything's exactly how we like it. Then we'll cut some strips of plate steel and redo that again. Redo the outer so it all looks stock. So we're gonna keep working on it. Here's the update. We have lengthened our rails. We've made all our measurements. Now these are just those little plates, remember, just holding this in place. That's not the permanent fixture. We have 1/8 inch plate steel that we're actually gonna lay in here and weld up. But as you can see, we have lengthened everything the appropriate amount, and we have a piece of plate steel tacked in. So we're gonna actually knock off one of the side gussets, put a lower one in, and then weld and bend that around. All right, so we got one side completely done. We sprayed a little primer on it. End of the day, we're gonna be going home, so I don't wanna leave it in bare metal. But it is lengthened 3/4 of an inch. All kind of just roughly ground down. The whole subframe is getting painted black. So a little bit of primer on it. We got the other side to still do. It's just tacked in place. Cut some metal, weld everything in, and she'll be ready to go. That's it for the day, guys. I'm going home. We have one side of this IRS done. We have the other side to do, which won't take real long to get buttoned up, and then we'll test fit the cradle, take some measurements, make sure we like where everything's sitting, and then we'll work on mounting the rear brackets to the frame and then getting the rear suspension completely done. So this is gonna be a cool little build. I'm gonna do a bunch of videos on it and share it with you guys. Give you a little sneak peek of the engine setup that's going in it. So that's the engine. Not gonna tell you what it is. You guys can comment below if you know what it is. So it's getting that engine, and then the transmission is sitting right there. Again, if you know what they are, comment below. So you know they're Ford engines that well. So it's going to be getting an all tubular front end from BMR, tubular lower control arms, tubular K-member, and then a custom power steering system for it, and a pretty trick little interior that I'm going to show you guys later. All right, that's it for now, guys. Have a good night. Peace.